We ran you by the editorial cartoons as well. Kenya Police, welcome to the barbecue. And this is where we want to focus on as well, just to latch on the items that we've run you by, the news items as well. What does this really showcase, especially with the governance in this country right now, and even the breach of protocol? I thought maybe after the president has spoken, that's it. It's done and dusted. Patrick Obath. So what you saw yesterday, and of course we ran you by that particular story, your input, the deputy president and the president's statement.
You know, when I organize functions, like Kenya Open and all those kind of events.
Right. There's an echo here. Could we just switch off the fallback, please?
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, when you organize a Kenya Open and we have the speeches and the president is there.
This is the golf.
Golf, yeah.
The Kenya Open golf.
Golf, yeah.
Yeah.
We're always told that the minute the president has spoken, nobody else can speak. Right? The national anthem goes and bang, it goes. Right? That is it. That is the protocol. But we were able to get around that protocol a bit because you told them that internationally, once the prize giving is done, you allow the winner to then make his, to speak, to say a few words after whatever it is. So it took us a couple of years, and we got dispensation specifically for that to happen, right? But before that, he used to speak after the president has left, which meant that the press has gone. But I think what happened yesterday for me was quite disturbing. The head of state had scheduled his press statement at 4 o'clock yesterday. Mm-hmm. And we were meeting for different reasons to also have a look at this whole issue and discuss it and the impact of whatever was going on the business community. And so we said, let's take a break at 4 o'clock. At about 3:30, we also get this note that there's an invite to another press conference at the Deputy President's residence in Kizingo in Mombasa. Mm. And we just started asking, why do we have two notifications by the same government about a press conference? Is this going to be, I know already there was a bit of concern that you had these two. And then, very uncharacteristically, the 4 o'clock press conference didn't happen until almost 4:30. Right? It was half an hour late before the actual statement was made. And then, an hour later, 20 minutes after he finished, then this other one started. And it, in a way, from an outsider, shows a completely, not completely, but a disjointed approach to governance in this country. There is what is normally expected, and this happens. Yes, we're in unusual times. But for this to happen, I think it reflects something is not right in the governance of this country. But also for me, the content of that other press conference, right, was completely, the second one, by the deputy president, was completely unnecessary. When you have issues inside an organization like government, deal with it inside government. Don't deal with it outside, in the open. When you start doing that kind of thing, it just raises questions about the governance within government for that reason. So if the NIS boss was not doing the right thing, they have ways and means within the law and within the governance structure to take care of it. Why bring it onto a national platform? It will start asking so many questions at that point in time. And then it will also drive the rumor mill in this country. Seriously. And driving that rumor mill in the country will be completely counterproductive to the efforts that the government is putting in to try and quell what is going on. So I think it was in bad taste to do that. And I think that we really need to look at the way government runs itself. There's a lot that needs to be done in that area.
That can be dealt internally,
it's
as
all
you say,
internal.
not play it in the...
Don't play it out and call press conferences and everything else.
And the buck stops with the executive. right?
Yeah.
Not raising accusative finger to your juniors as the leaders. I mean, you cover the scenes, and of course you deal with it internally at the end of the day. So was this also, looking at it and picking it, is it maybe also for political expediency and trying also to make sure that this entire situation, the way it was mishandled, it was not the executive to blame? Because if you come and tell us it is the NIS, it is not just the NIS that has intelligence. We have also the military intelligence, right, that is reporting to the president as well at the end of the day. Do you want to tell me also there was no intelligence from the military? That sometimes they say it's even on a much higher capacity compared to the NIS as it were at the end of the day. So when we have the national security, the state organs meeting,
the administrators,
they have a meeting
everywhere.
as well. Right. Let's hear from Professor Iraqi.
I think I listened to the two speeches by the president and the deputy. And what surprised me is the way he was very quick to blame someone, that we did not get intelligence. There are two angles to it. One, they could have been diverting the attention to somebody else, looking for a scapegoat. Why do I say so? On Tuesday morning, I was in town at 6:30. I drove along Uhuru Highway, and I remember the number of policemen, well armed, some of them looking like astronauts on that route. And then at around 11, I was on Gong Road.
True.
And I saw the number of Kenyans who are walking to town. I drove on Grove roundabout, and I saw a number of young Kenyans coming to town. So we don't need a lot of intelligence to know that Kenyans were coming to town. We know the percentage of GZ on the Kenyan population. We know the number of GZ in Nairobi population. So it is easy to estimate how many Kenyans would come for a meeting if they all came out, if 30% came out. So to me, that was, I think, a diversionary technique. But more important, number two, it reflected very badly of the government. There's a crisis, the government is in a crisis, and the two top people are talking on cross purposes. And we have always said in Africa, don't wash your dirty linen in public. I think those are internal issues they should have sorted individually, behind the curtain or behind the tent as we talk about it.
But there's no way the deputy president will have actually given this address without the acknowledgement of the president.
That's exactly.
So this was actually on the script.
That's exactly
right?
why
It doesn't really come just from the left side that, oh, there's one presser that will be given at 4:30 or at 4 o'clock as it was
I don't think
planned.
so. No.
And then there is another presser that is coming from State House. No,
we don't know.
No, we don't believe so.
Were they coordinated?
This must have been coordinated.
Were they
I don't think so. No, absolutely not. I think unless you live on the moon, my friend Ibal, you know very well that these two gentlemen have fallen out completely with each other in the last few months. So the DP has not been attending meetings in State House. The DP has not. I mean, it's clearly he's spoken out loud and clear that they've fallen out. So and clearly the fact that he's not even with the president in this critical crisis meeting in the State House, and he's in Mombasa giving another statement after the president in breach of the protocol, like you said. I think clearly, my take is. We've seen this in the last term of Uhuru's presidency, a dysfunctional presidency, where the president and the deputy are no longer together, and so everyone does his own things, and this is clearly what is happening. And you remember at the height of that fallout in the Uhuru administration, many of the supporters of the president then were calling on the deputy, why don't you just resign? And I think it's coming to this now when Rigathi will be asked to just resign if you're not able to work with the president, rather than fight the government inside. Rigathi is a member of the National Security Committee. He receives, that's the forum for them to discuss national security issues. And the NSIS submits its security report every morning or every day to the president. It doesn't, that security report in any country in the world is not shared by anyone else. It's normally given to the president. So he won't know. Rigathi cannot know what information the NSIS has passed on to the president, every day and night. So it's clearly he's playing politics, trying to hit the president under the belt. That look, my friend, is your guys. Because who is NSIS? Security, national intelligence is the main backbone of any government. Those are the people who help the government, the president, run the government, whether it's in America or whether it's in any country. So when you're hitting at them, you're basically hitting at the president, telling him, my friend, you are not able to run the country. You're not in charge. You don't know what's going on in the country. That's what he's telling the president. Because this is the right-hand man of the president in any country. And National Security Advisor is a critical position. So what in essence Legality is doing to hit at the president directly and tell him, my friend, you're not running any government. You don't know what you're doing. So I think clearly it's a situation where the fallout is, the dysfunctionality is evident and is unfortunate. So I think if we can't go on like this. We had the 5 years of Uhuru with the two presidents, the two of them fighting. Now we can't have again. I think the best thing, if Legality really has the interest of the country at heart, if he doesn't, he finds he's not able to work with this guy, he should resign. That's the best way. But I think to continuously be speaking at cross purposes and attacking institutions of government, tomorrow he's going to again, say this organization, this office, that office. If he doesn't get what, and from what we have been reading in the media is, you remember what happened when they came in. Legality was reported to be the one behind the attack on Uhuru's farm. Legality was reported to be the one who hired the goons who raided the railway, the expressway because of Uhuru. And the same Legality now, we are being told, is the one who was trying to get people into the CBD to do the looting, and that's why he's unhappy with the NSIS and so forth because of that. So it's something personal really about what he was trying to do and what these people reported.
So he's trying to exonerate himself.
But I think he can't run this country this way. The president also must make up his mind. If he's not able to work with his deputy, there are mechanisms in law, including impeachment. Otherwise, they should work together. But I think to have a country where, people are, the presidency is in chaos. I mean, you can't run a government like that. We had that problem under Uhuru.
But what will have stopped the president from actually having not giving a sporting chance to Legality to beam this particular press conference from Nakuru? He's got all the state machinery to do it.
It's like you said, it's not protocol. The president says they were in a meeting with all the MPs and everyone. They consulted, they agreed, and they gave a statement. So why would you give another statement which runs contrary to this? If you heard the speech of, if you listen to Legality, he clearly said that the government is to blame. It did not listen to people. It should listen to people and all that. And so so he really was not speaking exactly in the same way that the president was speaking. And this is what we've been saying here for months here, that the government must listen. Everyone knows that the problem was created by a failure by the leadership to listen to Kenyans, not just to these young men, but they were not listening to businesses. They were not listening to industry. They were not listening to professionals. They were not listening to anybody. We said it many times. We even said, let us have a national convention on the economy. You remember last year? Yes. They were not listening to anyone.
Right.
So this is the culmination of that failure in leadership. So I think, but in this particular instance, I think it's not the time for the presidency to start their shadow boxing. I think we have more serious issues, really.
To deal with.
Yes, we have more serious issues.
Makfi, this was actually, the writing was on the wall. As we've just evidently talked about it, that yes, we have the Gen Z, things are getting out of hand, and they're peacefully protesting, and they are giving notices, we shall be there. So when we hear about there was no intelligence, right, that is a shaggy dog story, a cockable story that we're hearing from the deputy president. I mean, what intelligence do you need aside from that at the end of the day?
Well, you see, I think, I think the words that you've just given us there are very, very important. And one of the words you used is personal. And, I think that really is the summation of the position here we have. I was thinking back to the inauguration of the president in Kasarani. And if you remember, there was a speech which I thought was totally out of, it was the wrong thing to say at that particular inauguration. But this gentleman was just lambasting Uhuru and saying that he had done all sorts of things. And when you look, you see, I met a man when I was 14, okay? He died a couple of years ago, at the beginning of 2022. But, he's always insisted with me, look, don't judge people from what they say. Because we have very, very clever people, okay, and who give fantastic speeches, judge people from what they do. And I think, you know, what you're actually saying, and, you know, what we can see, okay, is that what this gentleman is doing and what he's saying are two different things. He's a hypocrite. And, you know, the point is, the way he blames someone else, and he's probably blaming, as Billo told me privately a few moments ago, this gentleman was actually on his case earlier, and he's now hitting back at him. Earlier, I mean, before he became the vice president. So, you know, I think this is just totally, you know, he's saying things which are totally, they're the wrong things to say at that particular moment in time. And, you know, I tend to think, you see, this is where so few people will take personal responsibility. And he's got to try to support the president, not undercut him in the way that he did, okay? And I think what Billo actually has told us a few moments ago is incredibly important. And, you know, well, I don't know if the government doesn't listen to you, but I certainly listen to you. Because, you know,
They listen.
Yeah, but it's so important we listen to one another, you know? Because I've got to learn from you. You know, I've got to learn from Patrick. I've got to learn from XN. Debal, you've got to learn from me.
There's nothing to learn from me.
And, no, but you're half my age, but I've got to listen to you, and I've got to think. You know, so many of us just say, this is this. Dion, Kweli, too good, Dion, what? And, guys, think. You know, this man was totally, you know, wrong in the inauguration ceremony at Kasarani. Totally, to my mind. Mm-hmm. And my opinion of him changed that day. I said, this is in bad taste. You know, you should not have said that, you know? And it's rather like if you know, let's suppose, you know, XN and I are in a boxing game and I win and even say I knock him out. I don't then start saying, okay, well, you know, XN is Bude and blah, 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 blah. You know, I don't do that. So, you see, but I fully concur with what you said, Billo, and I think, you know, we got to listen to you here. You know, because you have experience at that particular level, you know.
Can I add something, please?
Please.
It's interesting that we are here discussing the reaction of Deputy President to the current crisis. Would have expected to hear that more from Azimio, the opposition. But they are not as vocal as the Deputy President, which makes us very concerned. Because why is Azimio not as eloquent as the Deputy President on the same matter of demonstrations? Because we'd have expected to be the people saying that the government failed. So when we have the internal discordant within the government, it's not very assuring to the Kenyan citizens, it's not assuring to the investors, it's not assuring to the foreigners who come as tourists.
Mm.
So
I think
it seems Professor Exan Iraqi is a visitor in Jerusalem.
Yes.
So,
I'm in Jerusalem, but I'm saying you would have expected that from Azimio, not from the Deputy President.
Deputy President, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
But I had them
No, I think this. What was I going to say? I mean, the whole essence of this engagement that has gone on, yeah? When you look at the traditional areas where people used to come from when those Mandamano, nobody came from there.
Yeah.
Kibera, 0. Madare, 0. Kondele in my part of the world, 0. Those are the traditional places that light up whenever there's an issue.
Yeah.
This time they were dead quiet. So anybody trying to say that there was, you know, that with this Gen Z, that there was somebody behind. And that is one of the issues I have with these people. They were saying there is some people behind them who are giving them money, giving them this, giving them that.
George
Those
Soros.
people, those people were the ones who were doing it, and they tried to sort of, try to pass it on to somebody else. Because this was pure anger, pure disenchantment coming out in itself. right? The people who know how to pay and get people to come out, I mean, that is the traditional way the opposition has been operating. They've been actually going around and getting people out from these places to come out and demonstrate. So this was a phenomenon that the government and the opposition did not know how to react to, because it is
unprecedented.
It's unprecedented. I mean, and you know, the opposition had ways of doing it. This was being done in a way that is completely different. So how can they comment loudly? Yeah, they made a comment and supported them, but they couldn't, you know, they couldn't say that, you know, our systems were bad. This is the better system than ours. That's what I expected them to do.
You see, in my the way I see it, I've been thinking, what happened? Why did the president climb down after 24 hours of, you know, but and the more you look at it, look at what happened in the epic center of these demonstrations were in the strongholds of the president. It's this UDA party. It was in Rift Valley particularly, and central Kenya. You've never seen those kind of demonstrations in Eldoret, in Nyeri, in Kiambu, in Kericho, those places. I'm told even in some small villages in, you know, off Kericho, Ukunda, those small places, demonstrations were, you know, were very, very loud about what, you know. So this, in my views, you know, when I thought about it, I said, maybe this is what is moving these guys. If it was happening in Nairobi, like he says, and Kondelis and this, they would not pay attention. Yeah. But now, when it has come home, very close home, you have to fear. It's frightening. They went into the houses of Sudi and others. The next day, they will be in the president's home in Sugoi. They went to supermarkets in the area of MPs. So it's really, those are the things which moved these people. Number two is the members of parliament. In fact, if there's any group in this country today who should be really afraid for their own safety, for their own lives, is members of parliament.
Yes.
Yes, they have really come under fire, not just in the media, but physically. Their homes are attacked, their offices are attacked. They went out of parliament, you know, they were saved through their skins. They were almost, they were going to be lynched if they were not, in fact, if it wasn't for that tunnel.
To the Bunga Towers.
To the Bunga Towers.
Yeah.
Parliament would have been talking about a different story today. There would have been a different tale. So members of parliament today are feeling miserable. One, they voted, and whatever they voted in, the president threw the dustbin. You know, for all their arrogance, and they went around the country and telling Kenyans off, and you saw how the majority leader behaved, and how Korea Kimanis and everybody telling businesses you can get lost. What they did was thrown in the dustbin by the president. So one, that alone is humiliating. Then the public now, in their constituency, they can't go home. People waiting for them, in their houses, in their offices. So, I mean, if there's anyone who's feeling bad, it's not the president, it's the members of parliament.
I think Article 1 of the Constitution, whatever it says,
So I think it's not just the executive that needs to change. I think members of parliament needs to change. I mean, if today the parliament was to be recalled, where would they sit? Maybe in the old chamber, but in the main parliament building, there's no chamber that you can sit in today. Everything is been destroyed, and so they need to rethink really completely about how they should behave as leaders, because they have abandoned their responsibility. In fact, part of the main reason why people are on the streets is on the issue of governance, failure by members of parliament to hold the executive to account. Yes, if members of parliament did their job, today that finance bill would not have ended up where it was. They would have said from day one, no, sorry, I think people are being overtaxed. People have no jobs. Businesses are collapsing. Sorry, we cannot allow this. Instead, they were more aggressive than the executive in pushing for the, for more taxes and more revenue. Literally, I mean, they were the ones who are the executive. Literally, the parliament has been reduced to an appendage of the executive. Worse even.
That is where we need to be afraid,
Yeah. So they need to be afraid. They really need to be afraid. And people are now calling for. I've seen Nelson Harvey and others, people, former president of LSK, calling for the dissolution of parliament. you know, and where it has reached, you know, the level of
it's just become a conduit and a stamping, conveyor belt.
So maybe we need to change the constitution so that the president can dissolve the parliament as
No,
it used to
we
be.
can't. I don't think the constitution is the issue. The issue is the governance. Let's deal with these people who are running government.
But even before going to where the MPs are going, the arrogance,
yes,
talking about KFC, talking about Uber, I think that was quite arrogant from an MP, particularly when he is young. And I'm sure he eats burgers and goes to KFC.
But my concern is this. Let me use flowery language here. This bunch of people called MPs, I was going to use a different word. One day you see them sitting there, they're being told, pass this bill. Yeah? And they're all sitting behind there, they're being told by the executive, pass this bill. And they say yes, 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 and then they go in and they rubbish everything else and they go and pass the bill. Completely against the grain of what is going on in the country. Completely against what their electorate is telling them. Did they go back to their constituencies and ask? Or did they go back to their constituencies and tell? And I think the latter is the big problem. They always go and tell, not ask. They're not servants of the people, they're leaders of the people. Yeah? Which is the way it should not be. It shouldn't be that way. They should be servants of the people, servant leadership. And then yesterday, the same bunch are sitting there, smiling and clapping and everything else, right? As though nothing had happened.
That's it.
Where is their brain? Where is their conscience?
Thank you, Patrick.
Yeah? Why are they just going around like that? Their role as parliamentarians is to hold the executive accountable, not to be held accountable by the executive. Their function has changed. Should they be there? Yeah?
Well, we got to ask ourselves that question, you see.
And some of them are my friends. I could see them sitting there. I wondered what has happened to these people that I knew are very principled people and everything else, and they go to parliament and they just become puppets, right?
I
really got seriously disturbed. I mean, this for me is really what has angered me by the events over the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks. That the representatives of the people failed the people. And therefore the people came out. And Gen Z are a representation, and a very large representation of the people. And they came out and basically said, this is not good enough. And the people who were being targeted were sitting there, very smug on their face and saying, we are okay. Until these people say, occupy parliament, they didn't read the tea leaves, because that was the message. We are coming at you guys. And they did. Right? And even after that, they're still sitting there clapping that things have changed. I mean, I
will comment on the military.
Before you come to the military, I wanted to ask you, because if my director may also pick up this, the presidential memorandum of referral, because everyone was a bit confused regarding now, is this now legal or not? There's no law that can actually give the president, that particular leeway for him to withdraw the bill.
No, I think it was the language.
It was a language.
I think it was the language he used that was confusing.
Yes.
But what he has done is what the law says. He has already done a memorandum saying he rejects the bill in its entirety, isn't it?
Yes.
So what Parliament does is they have two options. Either agree with the president or disagree. In other words, what the president done is to veto. So what they can do, because we have a system similar to the American one, what the Parliament can do is to override his veto. They have to override his veto, and to do that, they need to pass with a majority of 65%, two-thirds. So if they bring back the same bill and say, by a 65% majority, has no choice but to sign. But if they don't, then the bill lapses. If they don't get the 65, the bill lapses, and now Parliament has to come up with another finance bill. So that's basically what I think.
So in essence, he's done what he should have done. Take it back to Parliament.
Yes.
Yeah. Because now the directive is delete all the clauses.
Correct.
Yes. So that makes it invalid completely.
Exactly. The whole bill. Yes. And it's unlikely that anyone would oppose. They would raise, because they're the ones who went to State House and
clapping.
who are clapping there. So So this is done. I don't think. I know there are people who are those who are still keen on marching to State House and others were interest groups and have been trying to create a story that no, he's lying. It's going to come back. 21 days. No, but you see, even if the Parliament is on recess, Parliament can be recalled back anytime by the Speaker. You know, tomorrow morning to come and vote on that, and they will do that. So the recess is not a big deal. So, but I think this is a done deal.
It's a done deal. So yeah, let's just be clear. This was not. Well, we had all those cases. Oh, it is illegal. Oh. I think it's a language that you. But now since we saw that yes, there's this presidential memorandum of referral, it has cleared there.
My friend raised a very important issue about his friends who go to Parliament and behave differently. And maybe he has some insights. He can share with us.
You know, they always say, they say that once maybe you're elected to office and you step on the gates of Parliament, you ditch your brain there faster. You check out your brain faster.
But how comes he came back with his?
No, you see,
he took his after. On the way out.
That's not fair. I think let me. It's a good point here, raised. I have 3 observations on that matter. One, if you those in the academics would know, you know, the days of glory of Parliament was in the 19th century. You know, in the last 1 century, the political parties have become very strong, and members of Parliament, the backbench in particular, who are the ones who are responsible for oversight of the executive, have been weakened by political parties exercising their disciplinary action on their members. You know that you must vote as the party wants. That has changed quite a lot of dynamics. And members of Parliament in many countries, if you tend to toe the line of the party line. Otherwise, you get de-whipped, and that's one of the reasons. 2, I think the trend of people getting into politics has changed in this country. It used to be professionals were getting, elder, more experienced professionals, lawyers, academics, whatever they are, but more experienced people, elderly, who are getting into Parliament. And this is the same thing. You go to the House of Commons, you go to the House of Lords. These are people who are there for 30, 40 years in the House. They're experienced. But in Kenya, Parliament or politics has become employment now. You leave university, the first thing you want to do is you run for a seat of Parliament. That's the easiest job you can apply for. If you're a fox in the village, or you're a clan, or your tribe allows you, then you get into Parliament. So I think that again is one. The last one is Uhuru changed quite a bit of the dynamics. Let me be frank. Members of Parliament has now become a place to make money. Because what they did was to allow members of Parliament to become businessmen. Uhuru allowed MPs to be responsible for every government project in their constituency. So that if there's any activity for construction of a road, for construction of a facility, it's the members of Parliament who are given priority. So they form their own companies and take all those jobs, and they all become businessmen. You go to government offices, they're being given contracts. Why? Under the new constitutional dispensation, the executive wants Parliament to vote for them to pass the ministers who have been named, the ambassadors, and what all the motion to get their, So in order to get all the things they want passed in Parliament, they ended up bribing members of Parliament with contracts, with jobs, in the ministries and so forth. So it has become business. So everybody now sees Parliament as a place to go and make money. So I think in my view that is, so when you find your MP acting in a very weird, he's elected in ODM, he goes to State House, he says, I'm coming here for development. It's not development. Development, they are entitled to without
Pesa yangu
too, the contract.
Development money must come to me.
Very good analysis.
Yeah.
All right.
On the military, we need to talk.
Yes, we need to go on the military side before now we look at also the economic side of it, because we had the president now making pronouncements and people saying, this has not been gazetted, all these are just broadside declarations on the budget cuts, and also from his office, the entire executive, also from other ministries that are imploring, even the county governments as well, to make sure that they are paring down on the budget. But we wanted to ask, yes, on the military bit, that has been a contention regarding, first of all, the pronouncement that we have the deployment of KDF without the approval of Parliament. And this is not the first time we've been seeing this happening, you're right? We saw what with the cattle rustling, with the Parliamentary, that yes, there was no approval of cabinet. That happens later again. And everyone is questioning what is the legality of it. We have the Law Society of Kenya, they've moved to the courts right now to challenge it. First of all, do you think the deployment of the military was necessary? Bilo.
Yes, I think the deployment was absolutely necessary. And it would be the dereliction of duty if the government did not get the military onto the streets. Because what happened, you saw in Nakuru, Nairobi, in many places, government institutions have been set on fire. The police have been overwhelmed completely, and in many cases they were not able to provide security. And we've seen that even recently in the US, where the National Guard and and other aspects of the military were deployed when the students took over several universities in many states. Some states they actually deployed the National Guard to try and maintain law because the police were not able to. The same thing happened when there was that insurrection during the Trump's last few days in the Congress when protesters overran Congress. They had to get
200 FBI officers were in the crowd. Yeah, encouraging them to go into the capital.
So they had to get the National Guard to try and secure the press. So that's not so necessity. Yes, absolutely necessary. And I think it would be foolish for only expect that military should just stay and let the country burn. No, but I think in terms of the legality, I think this is the challenge we have always had, that the constitutionalism we must. Why is this so difficult? To get the parliament to convene and get it approved before you take that action. I think that is. The legal aspect is critical, and because the moment you ignore the law, then you now get into this crisis. You send the military, and the court has said, has rubbished the whole thing. So now what happens? The military feels like they've been misused. I mean, they were sent there and then have been told to get out again because of the. So I think it's important that the president should, and the government, the executive, should get the approval of parliament when they want to use, because that's the law. That's the law. Let us stick to this thing. And he said yesterday that I took an oath. So I think it's about implementing what is in this constitution. By the way, if they only implemented what they took an oath on, we would not have a problem in this country. Absolutely. Why should you? Everything is as part of what was agreed by the people of Kenya. Nobody would hold you responsible.
I think one thing I'd like to add on to what Bilo has said. And this is just some statistics. The average number of policemen per unit of citizens. Yeah. If you look at Kenya, we've got one policeman for roughly every 500.
No, 1,000.
5,000. No more.
No.
More.
One person for every 5,000 people. One policeman for every. No, it's about 500.
No, because the UN actually, according to UN, that particular ratio should be 1 to 400.
1 to 400.
Yes.
And we are 1 to 4,000.
That one I need to figure out if it's 1 to 4,000. It could be. Maybe, but yeah.
It is double what the UN says. So if it's 1 to 400, we are about 1 to 1,000. Right?
Yeah.
Now, we are 1 to 1,000, badly equipped, badly trained. Despite Kiganjo that we have and everything else. They're badly equipped. Yeah? I just have to go to the local police station in my.
Why are they equipped? They have been getting consistently over 200 billion shillings for the last 15 years in their budget.
And what have
more than 10 years? Yeah.
The helicopters can't fly. You name it, the works, nothing. So that money is going somewhere. So what you see on the ground and you go to the local police station is zero. They don't even have motorbikes just to move around. They don't have fuel, right? Somebody is eating that money.
Well,
so our police
that
force,
is our problem.
Our police force is unable to deal with the challenges that they're presented with. No matter how well trained they are, whatever it is and so forth, they're just being set up to fail. So when you have a situation that is unusual like this, right? If they can't just deal with normal peaceful guys with a few thieves here and there and guys fighting each other in the house and all the rest of it, how well are they equipped to do this? Yes, they've been bought all these trucks with flour, with nice colored water and everything else and so forth.
But they're localized here in Nairobi. I bet they're just here in Nairobi. We didn't see all those water cannons elsewhere.
And the astronauts that XN was seeing on the road, yeah? These guys dressed in spacesuits, yeah? There's very few of those people. But those are supposed to be specialized people when normal policing fails. yeah, and when there's issues that the normal policing cannot handle. Now, if you've already got a police force that cannot deal with normal citizenry, then you escalate it to people walking on the streets where they're supposed to provide security for peaceful demonstrations, and they do the opposite. The way our police work to be effective is by being brutal. That because of the numbers that they don't have, what they have basically is the weapons they have, which is brutality. So if that is the mentality they have when they're working, all the stuff, as you escalate anything, it just gets worse and worse and worse. And that's what we saw over the last few days. So if they can't control it there, who else can you bring in to probably continue with that at a higher level? That is my concern when you bring the military in. Are they now going to take over where the police left and move into a new area? Because things like that were happening when you're supposed to have peaceful demonstrations require a completely different way of working. Not the use of force. It's the use of persuasion. It's all about creating, understanding the culture and being able to work with people in the streets. But if what you're doing is you're escalating it up in terms of the, what I call ammunition available, we are treading on dangerous ground. And that is why I fully support what was said. You have to declare a state of emergency first. There has to be a good reason why you're doing it. Things have failed. You admit that that has happened, and therefore you're escalating it to a different place. But to casually go in and say, let's just bring them in to support the police, I think is wrong. Yes, that is what the law says. It has to go through that process. But there has to be a reason why you're going through that process. And the reason was because the police has not been able to do what they're supposed to do. So are these people going to meet more of the same on the citizens of Kenya? That is the concern that I have with that process that took place. Right? And nobody in Parliament asked that question. When this was brought before them to go through, why didn't they ask the question? Again, going back to my good friends who have been clapping behind there. Have they lost their brains? Yeah, I get concerned. Bilo, you're absolutely right. The process is clear. But that whole thing behind it for me is my bigger worry.
Or
interesting.
If we may hack back maybe when we were actually deploying to Somalia, right, to the Operation Linda Inchi. I think first of all, if I remember very well, because I remember covering it, there was an approval.
Yeah, but you see the circumstances are different.
Here,
what happened is by 5 o'clock, if you were watching the news, in CBD there was total anarchy. Premises were being looted left, right and center across CBD. And police were completely outnumbered, and the whole city from everywhere was chaos. They were looting. So I think that is when they now rushed military into the CBD. Sometimes it's an emergency.
And then you get your approval.
And then they sought their approval. I think that's what they did. Yeah.
Okay.
So if I could add my few cents, he raised a very important issue that the police are underfunded. So bringing the military is not enough. We should also look at what is the policeman missing. Is it the weapons? Is it the training? Is it the psychology? Because we need to look at that as a long-term solution. But my issue with bringing the military into the streets is one, the national image. Because when people now start seeing military being brought on the streets, they think the problem is worse. The problem is very big. And number two is when we start militarizing the politics, we are opening an avenue that we may not be able to control, because the military realizes they can dab with the politics. How can we stop them going even deeper in future? So I think it is okay what Biro is saying, that there was a crisis and the military could come and help, but they should not be open-ended.
Correct.
Maybe they should have said after 1 week, after 2 weeks, so that people know that within this time the military will do their work and then they go back to the barracks. Because if you look at the 2010 Constitution, I don't think anybody envisaged a situation where Kenya would become a militarized state. And we should not reach that stage, in my opinion.
All right. Okay, let's flip now the conversation. Let's, Bakfi, you want to comment on the military as well? Yeah.
I've got a contrary view.
Okay.
I feel that, when you see that a situation is getting out of hand, And very often, I think in Kenya, what we do is we hide behind the law, and the result is that Kenya doesn't work. I think it's important that, what Bilo was saying, the CBD, I haven't been into the CBD. I try to avoid it as much as I can possibly do so. But the fact is, if there is a problem there, I think we've got to try to find a solution. And why I say this is, I was on, I think it was on Tuesday, I was out at Farmer's Choice. And the finance director there said, look, we've got the easy way to solve this whole problem is just for the government to cut back on expenditure. The point is that the budget is overambitious. In order to get that additional money, what do? You tax people left, right, and center. So, but it's a very simple solution. Just simply cut back. Why does it cost 1.1 billion to upgrade the DP's house? And we could go on. But so the first thing is, many people in Kenya are living beyond their means. But I think also, you see, let's take base titanium. Base titanium is pulling out of Kenya. They're going to Madagascar. Now, is it because there are no reserves in Kwale? The answer is no. There are reserves. Base titanium gave the government, look, you've got to tell us by this date here, can we get the license to operate there? That decision was never made. So what happens? Base titanium is in business, okay? They have to pull out of the country. Mm-hmm. Pig farmers in Kenya, okay, are dropping pig farming because of this ETIMS, okay? They say, look, we don't want KRA to get into our business. So they're actually now going into chicken farming, okay? They're saying, forget about pigs, we're not going to deliver them to Farmer's Choice. So what happens? We're not producing enough pork, so we're now importing 2 to 3 containers of pork from Brazil every week. So the point is, we got to understand, Farmer's Choice has given a solution to KRA. KRA say, well, now wait, let me have a look here at page 67 of the Constitution to see. Come on, look, gentlemen, we are hiding behind the law. So there are circumstances where I've got to do something suddenly, quickly, to protect people, to uphold the law. So if I bring in the troops to do that, I don't know, I think I'm in a minority here, so from a democratic point of view, we're in Changa too, But anyway, the point is, we got to look, how do we solve our problems? How do we solve them? And I think, when you have that action taken, I think that's the correct action. Why? Because, as Bilo was mentioning, go into the CBD, all the shops are looted. Now, that's not Gen Z. Gen Z are in fact going to carry out a peaceful demonstration. But what happens, although you said no one came from Kibera, but maybe they came from other places, and they join in and they start looting. Because, there's a breakdown of law and order. In order to restore the law and order, let's not go back and say, wait, what page of the Constitution do we have now here? Okay, Article 201 says, solve the problem, Maramoja. Let's deal with the situation later. Because otherwise, this thing here is meant to make us free. In Kenya, it constrains us. It constrains us. And no one wants to make a decision because, labda, How do you get your members of parliament even to go to the House? When it came to the voting on the bill, a whole lot of people abstained.
Professor McPhee's cousins are the ones who told us we must have this thing. But they're the same ones who have told us the law is us. You should not.
The point is, this is based on the American Constitution, and that's why we've got to change it. We've got to go the Rwanda way.
All right. When we circle back, we want to see also how has been the reaction of the market. Of course, we give it to understand also the Eurobond investors were shaken by the Gen Z's protest. How did the shilling perform? Some of course the stock market as well. We'll be able to just also look at that and other developments as far as the bill is concerned. The tax amnesty has been extended. So the president highlighted some of some of the high points in that particular bill. Have we thrown the baby with the water? That's what is happening. Yeah.
The president is not the problem. We are the problem.
We are the problem. All right, we'll take a short break. You're watching Sokoni here on Morning Prime. When we circle back, we shall look at that as well and a raft of other issues on how also the state of the economy is.